change roles at the lectern, and we're going to move right ahead. We have a few guests tonight, so we're going to go over the roles, be a little detailed tonight, explain how the club works. So our grammarian is going to be Tom. Tom, can you give us the grammarian role?
Yeah, as the grammarian, I have basically two functions tonight. One is to keep watch for the word of the day. The word of the day is wiseacre, which is one who pretends to possess knowledge or cleverness. An example would be a loudmouth wiseacre who thinks he is more amusing than he really is. A wiseacre might also be called a smart aleck or a wise guy. And they even had the word Weisenheimer. I can't remember the last time I ever heard the word Weisenheimer. But the second function is just to listen for proper use of the English language and make any comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tom. Our table topics master is going to be Cheyenne. Can you explain what that role is?
Yes, so after the speeches, we will do table topics, and they're improv speeches based on the categories that I picked, and you will come up and you'll give a 1 to 2 minute speech off the top of your head, and guests don't have to, but you're more than welcome to if you'd like to.
Take a look how it kind of operates, and if you feel like you want to jump up, go ahead. Our general evaluator is going to be John.
What I'll do is just take notes about the meeting itself and give you a summary of how I think it went and maybe some areas of improvement or things that went well.
Thank you, John. Diego is going to be our first evaluator.
Hi everyone, I'm Diego. I'll be evaluating Susan Murphy's speech, so my role is to look at the evaluation form that is associated with her speech topic specifically, and then to give good feedback about her performance on this prepared speech tonight.
Thank you, Diego. Sean's our timer tonight.
I'll be timing the speeches. There is a 1 to 2 minute, or 1 to 2 minute time limit on table topics. So 1 minute is here at green, and then I believe 1:30 is here, and then 2 minutes is when this is the red light that tells you to stop. Evaluations are 2 to 3 minutes, and prepared speeches are 5 to 7 minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Tom, Olivia's not here. Can you also do Odd County?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, so that is the overview of tonight's meeting, and we're going to move forward with our first speaker. So the first speaker tonight is going to be Susan, and she's speaking out of Pathways, Presentation Mastery, and the topic is researching people. So let's welcome Susan.
Good evening, Toastmasters and honored guests. Tonight, as Cody said, I'll be speaking on researching people. Tonight, I won't be presenting information about anything overtly scientific or mathematical or historical, but you're in for a treat because you're going to hear a little bit of the research I've done for the past 15 years or so. So there's nothing like a good story to capture your imagination and hold your interest. Many say that telling stories are really the best way to teach other people. Years after we've forgotten many of those big facts and figures, we still remember the stories that we've taken into our hearts that we've heard. So in the course of doing my job over the past 15 years, I research people. I don't investigate them using background checks or anything strange like that. I get a tip from somebody who knows something good about somebody, and then they give me the name and I email them or call them to set an appointment to talk to them. I ask them questions, either over the phone or in person, face to face, and they trust me and they answer the questions. So I'd like to share the stories of two people who have really inspired me in the last 3 years. I've done quite a few of these over the years. These people I have written about in articles that I've written for various publications over the past 15 years. So I'm going to start with Blake Palmer. You want to show Blake's picture? He's on the inside.
He's in here?
Yeah, that's Blake. And I'll tell you a little about him. He had a childhood fascination for constructing model airplanes, which really laid the groundwork for kind of like a dream second career after he was laid off from corporate America after 15 years of working in the corporate world. He was 40 years old when he got laid off, and he began to sort of reevaluate his priorities in his life. He thought about enrolling in a school to become an airplane mechanic, but he was a volunteer at the Lone Star Flight Museum in Galveston, Texas, which opened the door for him to make a connection that enabled him to get an apprenticeship, which was paid, at a Houston area drilling company. After he worked for them a while, he was laid off, and then he was jobless for about 15 months. But his wife's paycheck sustained them while he searched. So one day, he answered a Craigslist ad for a job to restore antique airplanes. The owner met with him, and he hired him on the spot. And Blake said, restoring antique aircraft was absolutely the best job that I ever had. So several years ago, a Bible study classmate of Blake's, who was also a Facebook friend, posted a video from Go Baby Go. It's an organization that offers mobility to special needs children. The video on Facebook that he saw showed motorized cars that had been modified for disabled children. So Blake knew immediately that was something that he wanted to be involved in. He completed his first car in 2014, which was given to a boy in the special needs ministry at his church. Blake said, I saw his face light up. There was nothing I've experienced or anything I could ever spend money on in this world that meant as much to me as that. So a ministry was born. Above all, Blake's desire was the cars be very well built. So he interviewed robotics specialists, he did online research, and tinkered with microprocessors. He even invented a fluid motion device to control the vehicle so that it wouldn't jerk when the child started or stopped the vehicle. He invented that part for $100. Researchers with Go Baby Go said that the same fluid motion that he invented was about paramount to a $20,000 wheelchair. So it was amazing what he did. Every car is retrofitted based on the disabilities of each child. The special needs director at Blake's church said, Blake's vehicles have become the hands and feet of these children, giving their families the dream of seeing their child mobile. So that is Blake Palmer. And my second person, I just wrote about at the end of December for the University of Mobile here. Reagan Barnett, Dr. Reagan Barnett, studied ancient Greek as an undergraduate. She loved archaeology and was on track to attend graduate school to study Egyptology. Who's heard of that? But it's diseases in mummies. But at age 20, her own health took a scary turn. Colon cancer runs in her family, and that changed the course of her life. Instead of studying diseases in the dead, she decided to prevent them in the living. During her downtime, while she recuperated from 4 different surgeries in just a short period of time, she began reading scientific papers on the genetics of cancer. So her research and the patient advocacy work that she did put her in touch with a lot of doctors. One doctor heard her speak at a conference about patient advocacy and told her she needed to go back to school and study science. Well, she's a right-brained, creative kind of person, and she didn't think she was smart enough to do that. As she prayed, she thought about her future and decided what she liked most about studying diseases was not archaeology, but the diseases themselves. So she decided to try and enroll in the PhD program here at University of South Alabama. And although she did not get in her first time, a professor called her in for a meeting and encouraged her to just audit the classes. And even though she didn't get credit for them that year, she decided that would help her catch up on her science, so that's what she did. A God incident in her second year of grad school came while she was at a conference in Houston. She tweeted about one of the sessions at this conference she was at on her professional Twitter account. And a doctor from MD Anderson Cancer Center saw the tweet, invited her for a meeting at a coffee shop, and offered her a postdoctoral fellowship there after she finished her studies. It was an amazing story. After her fellowship at MD Anderson, she says God led her back to Mobile, where her husband's family business is. So the couple began volunteering with Roads of Hope, which is an organization that brought several Ukrainian youth to the U.S. to plead for adoption. So the same week that Dr. Barnett started working at the University of Mobile as a professor, she and her husband adopted a 16-year-old girl from the Ukraine. Reagan, Dr. Barnett, sees in hindsight the weaving together of her disease and her life choices. Now she teaches biology and she mentors students, and she teaches them how to find their life's passion and gives them practical advice about how to get their career started, as well as teaching them biology, of course. So Blake Palmer and Reagan Barnett are just two of the many stories that I've written about people. I've learned from them, and I've shared their story with countless people, whoever reads the magazines and some of the articles that have gone out. They've experienced life's challenges, they've discovered their true passions in life, and they've found jobs or avocations that enable them to help others as they live out their own dreams. So I hope their stories have inspired you as much as they inspire me. So thanks for letting me share them, because that's my passion.
Thank you, Susan. Great speech, very inspiring. That's something in there for everyone to take away. So. All right, we do not have a second speech tonight, so we're going to move into table topics. And Cheyenne, if you want to go a little long, you can. Fill the time.
Please just let me know.
Yeah, we'll do. Let's welcome Cheyenne for our table topics.
So I started off with a Mardi Gras / Valentine's Day theme, but it was kind of limited on questions, so we'll kind of mix random with that. So with that, I will ask the first question, and you can choose if you would like to come up and speak on it or not. Okay, so like I said, we're going into Mardi Gras season. So if you have moved here from a different area, did you ever hear about Mardi Gras, where you were from? And once you got here, was it what you expected?
I was born and raised in Houston, Texas, and we have been here for about a year and a half or so. There's Mardi Gras in the Houston area, and particularly Galveston, and people go nuts about Mardi Gras. So much so that I don't even like to go. It's not something that I really associate with. One step down from that is New Orleans, which I've been to Mardi Gras there once, I believe, in my early college days. Another place that I've seen some things that I don't really want to associate with. But when I came here, I heard about Mardi Gras, and our next door neighbors are really big into it, and she's a school teacher. I found out that the kids take a whole week off for Mardi Gras here. Unbelievable. And although I haven't been, I understand there's a raunchy side here as well, but a lot of it is family oriented, and which is geared more toward kids, I guess, which is real popular for kids to be off in the school year. I've yet to go, so I look forward to perhaps participating in a Mardi Gras event here locally. That's my take on Mardi Gras.
So our next question, will you be attending any of the parades or Mardi Gras balls this year? Okay.
So I'm from from Foley, not too far from Mobile, so I've been exposed to Mardi Gras pretty much my whole life. And I've only been to one ball. I went back probably 8 years ago was when I attended a Mardi Gras ball. And it was okay. I mean, it was about what people told me it was going to be like, but they made it seem like it was going to be more fun than what it was. So since then, I've had some people invite me and things like that, but I haven't been persuaded to return to a Mardi Gras ball. Maybe I need to give it another shot. Maybe we'll have a little bit better time this time around. So I'm not going to go to one this year, but if anyone is big into that, maybe you can convince me that I need to try it again. So thank you for trying.
I've never been to a ball because of the cost involved, but I've been to a parade a while back. Okay, so we'll move into some Valentine's Day questions. Does anyone have a most memorable Valentine's Day that you'd like to share? PG, please. Sean?
So we want to-
Say
So, what was the question? What
memorable Valentine's
Okay,
Day.
so it's memorable, but in a, well, not so good way, but I think that, so me and my girlfriend at the time, we kind of decided we're not gonna do Valentine's Day anymore. We just kind of, at some point in time. But we were talking the other night about Valentine's Day, and we had our dog. We ended up getting married, by the way. So fast forward, and my daughter's in the back seat. And we told her about the time we went on Valentine's Day date when we were in school in Auburn, and we all sat down in this. They had this restaurant in the hotel, and they had the piano player playing, and it was so quiet you could hear a pin drop, and everybody was quiet, and they were all looking around at each other, and nobody was saying anything. And it was like, if anybody said anything at the table, then everybody else in the restaurant would hear what they were saying. So it was just really kind of awkward. But that was my memorable Valentine's Day that I remember, and it kind of has led to, we more focus on our anniversary, and kind of Valentine's is more kind of taking a back seat for us, but we still are, you know, don't take it as a, we don't like each other anymore. That's my memorable Valentine's Day.
Sometimes it is what goes wrong than right that makes the story more interesting. So, what possession of your partner's would you like to throw away? If your partner is here, maybe you should save that one for later.
You do have the power to call them.
I can take this question.
Okay.
Maybe something we've already thrown away?
So I'll take this question. The question is there a possession of your partner's that you would like to throw away? So I'm a newlywed, and I had our home before my husband moved in. So everything was nice and neat and tidy, and then he brings his belongings and everything changed. There is one thing of his that I wish I could toss. He has this jacket that is so ugly, and he has had it since high school, and he wears it now just to bother me because he knows how much I dislike it. So if I could toss one thing away of his, it would be that I've tried to sneak it in the Goodwill box. Somehow he knows and he gets it out. And then he wears it for 3 days straight after he sees that I've done that. So that is my item that I would love to throw away in my husband's. Okay, so these are kind of more some random questions. Are there any weird food combinations that you enjoy?
So I decided I was gonna eat healthy at some point. I don't know, it's been almost, I guess, 3 years now. And I made a meal. It consists of quinoa, black beans, broccoli, and sweet potato. And it's all put into one container so it all kind of gets mixed together. And I found that's pretty easy to make and it tasted too bad. Now I've been consistently eating that for lunch for the past 2.5 years now. And I get a lot of, as you can imagine, I get a lot of flack from my colleagues at work. You know, they give me a hard time about it. But it's healthy, and I consistently eat it, and it's pretty cheap. So this is my lunch routine now, and it's kind of a weird combination, I guess. So that's a weird combination I enjoy. Thank you.
Okay, so let's change this. If you volunteer, then I will give you your topic. Okay, Diego. How different was your life 1 year ago?
Thanks, Cheyenne. So Cheyenne asked me to reflect on how things have been different for me in the past year. And things have significantly changed in the past year because I've become a full-time student once again. Last year, when it's around this time that I joined this organization for the first time, I was an AmeriCorps member with Mobile Baykeeper, working as a half-time member, and also starting to take a few chemistry classes. And I think probably the most significant change in my life in this past year has been realizing how passionate I am about chemistry and learning some really great applications of chemistry that I want to use in the future as an environmental scientist and environmental chemist. I think my affinity and interest in chemistry is also what has inspired me to pursue a doctoral program this year that I think last year was not really on my radar whatsoever, because I thought I would be done with school. I felt that it was time for me to try and become an adult. But I think what made me interested in taking more chemistry classes and become a student again was because I was interested in learning more, and I realize now that I think this is really my passion that I care a lot about, and this is the science that really speaks to me a lot more than some cursory understanding of environmental science. And so I think within this past year, I think I really learned that I really care a lot about chemistry, and I really think that this is a tool that I can use really well to become a good environmental advocate and environmental scientist in the future. Thanks, Cheyenne.
Okay, I'll give it a try.
Okay. What bends your mind every time you think about it?
Fellow Toastmasters guests, Cheyenne's asked me to talk about what bends my mind every time I think about it. And I'm an engineer and a bit of a science nerd, so I have to think about that one. Come up with something that's maybe not too far out. Well, it's something I just watched recently. I watched a program about the Ultima Thule mission. Is anybody familiar with that? They did a flyby this it's either Oort cloud or Kuiper belt object. Anyway, this very small object that is a relic of the early solar system beyond the orbit of Pluto. And they'd already launched the New Horizons mission to go out and look at Pluto. And then during that mission, after it already launched, they found this other very small object, very faint object, and were able to track it well enough and divert the mission to go explore this other object. And this is something that hasn't changed basically since the formation of our solar system. It's 4.5 billion years old, and a good indication of how scientists learn about how the Earth formed and other planets formed at the beginning of the solar system. So to me, what's so amazing about that is where our technology is and what engineering is able to do, and what a group is able to do if, with the right resources and the right people, you put your minds to the problems you can solve. Pretty incredible. Thanks, Cheyenne.
The other side of that blows my mind is when I think about how small we are compared to space and how space never. Okay, next. Miss Susan, would you like to go?
Oh, no.
If someone were to play you in a movie, who would you want it to be?
Cheyenne, thank you so much. Let's see, if someone were to play me in a movie, who would I want them to be? Well, it's a far cry from wishing that I looked like someone and actually, the truth. The person that popped into my head, I don't know why she popped into my head, because we look nothing alike, but probably Julia Roberts. I think she's got a very nice personality, and she's very upbeat, and she's got a nice smile. Nothing at all like me, but anyway, I have seen several of her movies. I'm trying to think of one. Runaway Bride. I've never been a runaway bride, but for some reason I like that movie, and I enjoyed watching it. She's been in so many, and she's still in a whole bunch of movies, but we don't go to Julia Roberts movies anymore, so. Julia Roberts seems like a fine person to play me in my next life.
I was going to say Diane Keaton.
Who's?
Diane Keaton. She's fabulous.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
Okay, I'll give it a shot.
I feel like I already know the answer to this, but Maurice, are you usually early or late?
Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, the question that was posed to me, am I usually early or late? That is a twofold answer, because some places where I have to go, I end up being late, and when I'm in the bed, all of a sudden my mind brainstorms, so I'm early. So that's a complex question when it comes down to it. So I'm both a late and early person. Because some of the things I'd like to do early, I can't. And then when things get close, or when I'm close to being late for something, then that's when I finally get the passion to do it, with little time left to do it. So that is my early and late story.
I'm working on being more punctual because I run late to everything, so.
We probably do one more.
Okay, one more. I pick the best one. Would you like to go? You did really well last time. Okay. What are some some of your personal rules that you never break.
Good evening, everybody. Can you ask me what are some of my personal rules that I would try to never break?
That you never break. Yeah.
That's kind of a topic that's not really at the forefront of my mind, but I guess there's probably a certain set of rules, not a particular one rule, and I think it just kind of anything that can kind of lead or provide some sort of a pivot between success and failure, whether that's being early or late, whether that is being prepared or unprepared, or just trying to be in the moment of whatever it is, it's a situation that I find myself in. But any sort of rules that could lead to success and failure, like I said, I try to keep them in the forefront of my mind, making sure that I stick to what I know is right, and I try to be honest, and I try to do the right thing at all times. Make sure I'm setting an example for those that are around me, family and friends. So not necessarily a specific rule that I have in my mind, but it depends on the situation and what might, bring about more success. That's what I'm.
It does sound simple, but you would not believe how many people do not believe in the honesty or just being faithful. So thank you guys. This concludes our table topics, and I will turn the podium back over to the Toastmaster.
Great job with table topics, Cheyenne. Almost everyone got a chance to do a few of them. Now we'll move to the evaluation portion of the meeting. John, will you please come give us our general evaluation?
As a general evaluator, wow, what a great turnout tonight. Everybody got here, most people early, right? The interaction was really great. We've got a couple of guests here, a few guests, which is really good. We got into the business portion of it on time. We started on time. When we were talking about the available funds, I think you had a lot to add, Maurice, that you probably could have come up and gotten behind the lectern and told a bit more about it. I kind of had felt myself turning around trying to figure out what it was you were saying. You had a lot of good things to add there. One thing I noticed there. Susan had an excellent speech on researching people. And let me tell you, that is just a tiny sampling of what she does. Fascinating stuff. And then the table topics was an amazing job. A nice variety and wonderful participation with everybody. Good job on that. And that concludes my general evaluation at this point.
You need to introduce the first evaluator.
Oh, and that is Diego, right?
Yes, sir.
So to evaluate Susan's speech would be Diego. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, John. Hello, everyone. I think this is the first time I've evaluated Susan's speeches before, and I can say with a lot of great confidence that I've seen a lot of improvement since the first speech that I think I witnessed with you. So this is really great. It's really great to see the growth that Susan has demonstrated tonight, in my opinion. I have a few comments I wanted to share with everyone, both pros and cons that I noticed in the speech, some habits that I want to see repeated, and some habits I'd recommend to be aware of in the future. First of all, Susan, I was really impressed again with the comfortability and the really nice tone you brought to the lectern. You really didn't indicate any sign of anxiety whatsoever, and it was clear to me that you were very enthused to share with us the two people who you wanted to speak about today as specific examples. Unfortunately, I think too much enthusiasm can kind of be a hindrance to communicating a speech very well. I felt that sometimes your speech could have benefited with a few more pauses in order to let everyone absorb what you were trying to say. So I think there was good enthusiasm, but I think it's important for future speeches to make sure that you don't let the enthusiasm make you want to speak too fast to the point where people don't comprehend what is being said. I really liked your diversity and your eye contact. You were doing a good job of sweeping across the room and then every now and then zooming in on a particular person and making sure that every audience member felt very engaged with the speech. It felt like you were speaking to individual people at a time, and I really think that that maintained the attention of the audience tonight, including me. I think another area of improvement I would like to see is more vocal variety. So I noticed that you were enthusiastic throughout most of the speech, but I think there would have been opportunities for you to lower your voice a bit or to even increase the volume of your voice on another portion of your speech. And I think that would have also increased more audience engagement and attention in your speech. I think a very good moment, a very wise moment on your part was you kind of pronounced Ukrainian, but then you stopped and you made sure that you pronounced it correctly and very clearly. And I thought that was a very good moment of a pause right there specifically. I would recommend in the future though for the next speeches that you build, more memorization of the notes, because I felt that every now and then when you had to look back down onto the lectern before you had the next comment that you want to share with the audience, I think that broke the connection you have with the audience. And then the final remark I want to say is I think you had really great use of hand gestures that were very diverse. I didn't find them distracting whatsoever. And you will see in my notes more, the 5-point scale on each of these types of topics. But overall, Susan, I really see a lot of growth in this speech today that I noticed over your involvement and journey with Toastmasters. So I'm really glad to see this level of progress that's going on with you. I'm looking forward to the next speech you give. Thanks, Susan. I'm going to turn it back to you.
All right, we don't have a second evaluator, right? No second speech?
No, right.
The awe counter, how do we do on that?
Okay. First of all, nobody used the word of the day, which was okay. In the odd counting roll, Cody as Toastmaster, you had 1 so and 1 and. John as general evaluator so far, you had 1 What we're looking at is crutch words. That words like so, and, well, things like that. Sean didn't know anything on timing. Susan as speaker, 1 3 2 so's, and an and. They weren't really offensive, but they were a little out of place. Diego as evaluator, 2 so's, 1 and 1 kinda. Now you used that twice, but once it fit and once it didn't fit. So I only counted it 1 time. Table topics. I think in table topics, the word of the day was so. Because we seem to really run the gamut on that one. Cheyenne, I counted 9 so's that were out of place. Had 2 ands. John in table topics had 2 ands. Cody had 6 so's. Sean had an 3 so's, a like, and a kinda that were out of place. Diego as table topics, 1 so and 1 and. Justin, 3 ahs, 1 2 so's, and an and. You need so's in there for everybody. So, and I just said the same thing. Susan in table topics, 1 which was out of place. Maurice in table topics, 1 so, and Don, you had 1 so. And other than that, the only other comment I would make, usually the English language was very good on everybody's part, but you have a tendency to end some of your sentences as a question. And that just sounded, it's getting to be commonplace, I think, anymore these days, but it's really not correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean, how do we do on time?
Susan's first, the only speech. Susan's speech was 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Table topics. John was 1 minute and 17. Cody, 48 seconds. I was 1 minute 44. Cheyenne, 59 seconds. Cody, second, 52 seconds. Diego, 1 minute 38 seconds. Justin, 1 minute 39 seconds. Susan, 1 minute 23 seconds. Maurice, 59 seconds. And Don, 1 minute 20, 1 minute 20 seconds. John's general evaluate, I don't know if I'm supposed to even, 1 minute 16, and then Diego's evaluation was 3 minutes 23 seconds.
Thank you. And I believe we have an education overview now, is that right?
Yeah, I'll make some.
Make something up? Okay.
All right, thanks, Sean. So, great meeting so far. Thank you, Diego, for that detailed evaluation. It's very good. Appreciate the effort you put into that, and also for the detailed reports on your Marion and Tyler. So Tom mentioned a book a few weeks ago, The Tipping Point, so I decided to pick it up. It sounded interesting. And one of the areas of the book, it talks about a study they did on, they call it a dance between communication. So when people talk together, there's micro movements and things they do to kind of mimic each other, and there's receivers and senders. So some people are genetically predisposed to be senders, some are receivers. The receivers are really good at communicating emotion to people. So good speakers also need to try to use some of those traits as a sender to communicate the emotion that they're trying to portray to the crowd. And they can really, good speakers can pick up on it. Like you see head nods and smiles, and maybe they say something that's supposed to be a little dramatic, maybe a grimace on the face, and then they can feed off that. And probably comedians as well, Cheyenne, they have a good ability to feed off the emotions of the crowd, and they can send their emotion into an audience and they can receive it. So it's just kind of interesting. And there's apparently a test you can take to see if you're more of a sender or receiver. But in the study, they had volunteers take the test, and then some senders would sit with receivers, and whether the sender was maybe upset or happy, after spending time in a room with them, not saying anything, the receivers would always leave with the same emotion as a sender. So it's pretty interesting. And, you don't really think about that, but it's a big impact. And then, whether you're a receiver or sender doesn't matter, but just smiling and carrying a happy persona can create an atmosphere of happiness in the room. So that's the educational overview for tonight. We do not have any awards, so I will now end the meeting unless anyone has anything they'd like to say.
Just a question.
Yes.
Is the club going to have a speech contest, and is the division going to have a speech contest?
Area
End of the month.
at the last Monday of the month.
Okay. At the club level, or is that the area contest?
Well, it'll be the area contest this week, next week. Well, I did ask for volunteers if they wanted to do a club level. No one volunteered.
Okay.
So if they volunteer later on, they'll just do the area
Okay.
contest.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we will now close the meeting. Thank you, everyone.